afternoon, everyone. I'm Abid Hassan, Senior Assistant Editor of ETHR World, and I welcome you all to this exclusive Fireside Chat on a very interesting, trending, and relevant topic, creating a roadmap for the ideal group health insurance in India. So, in the last couple of years, it has become transparent how essential health and safety has become for corporates and their employees. Health policies work as the adhesive that holds organization together, and it streamlines and systemizes daily operational activities, allowing a healthcare organization to run efficiently. With this new environment of work that we all are dealing in, it is highly recommended to design policies that are different to each organization and tailored to fit specific goals and outcomes. A well-designed group health insurance doesn't only cover health benefits for the employers and employees, wherein employees get peace of mind and health costs are covered. The employers also get goodwill reputation, goodwill generation, cost management, employer branding, and retention. So today we have some leading industry experts from various genre, various industries, and they'll share a lot of things about group health insurance. And we are also going to discuss some of the key things, such as the advantages of group health insurance and its impact on acquiring and retaining talent. That is one. Number two is we are going to discuss the significance of technology in shaping the future of group health insurance and what it means for employees. Third, I believe that we are going to discuss the crucial factors for employers to consider while picking up a group health insurance plan. These are some of the key things that we are going to discuss. And before I welcome all my guests, I request all my viewers to please share the questions in the Q&A tab and also attribute the name of the person that you are going to ask. Your questions are important to us, and all these leading panelists will share the responses after this fireside chat, as we say. So please allow me to welcome my first guest for this chat, Bhavya Mishra.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Very critical topic and very excited to be a part of this discussion. Thank you so much, Abid.
So a few lines on Bhavya, introducing Bhavya. So I believe Bhavya has over 13 years of work experience and has worked in companies including PepsiCo and Bharti Walmart. She is responsible for driving and heading the people agenda at Lenovo India. And in her last role, Bhavya was the HR business partner for commercial, finance, and IT for Africa, Middle East, and South Asia at PepsiCo. Once again, welcome to the show, Bhavya.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. My second guest is Ishpita Kajla, Head HR, Yatra Online. Hi, Ishpita. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Abid. Good afternoon. And good afternoon to all the other panelists and guests as well. And
thank you so much,
looking forward to the conversation.
Yes, looking forward. And Ipshita is over 14 years of experience, has worked in companies such as Indigo, Airtel, Mondelez, and Big FM. She's responsible for driving all leading functions at Yatra. She believes in translating business vision into HR initiatives and improve performance, profitability, growth, and employee engagement for the company. And I welcome Ipshita once again. Looking forward to an engaging conversation.
Thank you.
And some fire responses as well.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. And my next guest, last but not the least, I have the pleasure to welcome Raghuveer Malik, Head Corporate Business Policy Bazaar. Welcome to the show, Raghuveer.
Hey, Abid. Thank you for having me here.
Thanks, Raghuveer. Thanks for joining us. And Raghuveer is also over 30 years of experience in insurance tech, fintech, customer experience, and sales to banking and insurance companies. He has worked predominantly in the Indian tech startups and thoroughly enjoyed scaling and leading large teams. In his past stint, he has worked with companies like Yes Bank, Car Dekho, Skill Hippo, and others. Once again, welcome, Raghuveer.
Thanks, Abid.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for joining the conversation. And without any further ado, I'll shoot my first question. And my first question is to Ipshita. So, Ipshita, I would like to ask you, I don't know if it's interesting or it's important, but I would like to ask you, what are the key trends? What are the key trends influencing group health insurance in India? And can you touch upon considerations that have changed post-COVID? What are your thoughts?
So I think in terms of COVID having, taken all of us very much by surprise, I think the focus now is definitely on ensuring that there is insurance available, not only health insurance plans by organizations, but also where individuals, I think, have also started taking more and more insurance plans for themselves. And I'm sure Raghuveer and his team would have probably seen that in the past, right? I think overall, if we look at how insurance in general has emerged, I think after the 90s, the late 90s, when you really had privatization coming into the picture, that's when you've really seen a whole change in the health insurance or the insurance industry per se. So you have that much more of awareness, you have that much more of branding, you have that much more of the relevance and importance of organizations offering that as a very critical component of their compensation structure, right? So I think these are primarily things which we've seen over the years. Post-COVID, I think a lot of things have changed in terms of the kind of availability, the kind of responsiveness, the kind of focus that we need to have even more now on maintaining health, to kind of, in fact, try to even, reach one stage prior to say that, do we even want to reach a hospital, or do you really want to actually have to end up availing health insurance? Because, despite the fact that so many people had health insurance available during COVID, hospitals weren't available and things like that. So I think it now becomes not just the end stage of health insurance and being able to avail it, but how you can actually look at preempting, having to actually avail it in a worst case scenario. Yeah.
What you mentioned was very ideal and correct, that there were people who had insurance during the COVID times, but there were hospitals were available at that point of time. But Shita, do you mind sharing more about the post-COVID era, how health insurance is picked up, and what are the trends? Do you mind sharing a couple of more points on the second part of the question?
Sure, I would. And I think, in fact, Raghuveer would be, even better equipped to answer this because he would be seeing it across the industry. Right. But I think one marked difference, and I don't know, whether that's something which I'm pretty sure it's pretty generic. Speaking from, the perspective of someone who's just renewed insurances for the organization, I would say that the one drastic change, especially for organizations, has been the huge increase in cost of health insurance for organizations. Yeah. But I think it's the commitment of organizations towards maintaining and ensuring the safety and well-being of employees, right? To say that, yes, despite the enhanced cost, and in some cases 4, 5, 6 times the cost, be it health insurance, be it term life insurance, etc. But I think, yes, that is the commitment that organizations show and have towards employee engagement, welfare, well-being, to still continue to bear that cost to make sure that it's a safe place for everyone.
Yes, good point. And Raghuveer, you want to pitch in? You want to add something? Because feel free to add. I request everyone to please feel free to pitch in and add if they want something.
So I think when it comes to what has changed post-COVID, right? There are 3 or 4 trends that we've been observing in the market. The first is that we see a considerable number of small businesses and startups who post-COVID have started opting for group health insurance, right? A lot of their employees, a lot of people around us, a lot of us saw the harsh reality of facing a pandemic without insurance or with very, very little insurance. And a lot of, I'm very impressed by the number of small companies that have started caring about their employees or being more aware about health insurance and its benefits for their employees. And so that is one, I think, trend that underpins the post-COVID era. The second is that a lot of us today, I'm working from home today. Abid, you look like you're working from home today. a lot of us have started, either working from home, or a lot of companies have realized that bringing people back in from 100 to 200 cities in India to one headquarter in one go is going to be hard. And hence they've started setting up satellite offices, co-working spaces in multiple cities across the country. Launching as well as communicating as well as managing a health insurance policy in one city is very different from managing it across the country. Be it from the perspective of rolling it out to your employees, be it from the perspective of making a claim, be it from the perspective of any doubt or question that you may have regarding your policy. The third thing that we've seen is, and here, I can elaborate later, but there are various product features that are a part of group health insurance that for the longest time, I think people have not been aware of, or the importance of it has not come out. So things like fitness, mental health, dental care, vision care, as Ipshita mentioned, home care treatment, things like OPD, outpatient delivery policies, be it from an online perspective or an offline perspective. We see that a lot, the number of corporates who are availing these kind of features within their group health insurance policy today has gone up drastically. So from, let's say, 5 to 10% of companies talking to us about it to about 50 to 60% of the companies talking to us about it. And one last point I'd add over here is that post-COVID, we've seen a lot of companies who've come up to us for insurance policies for their contractual workers, for their part-time employees. So this whole, I think the gig economy workers that are a large part of, people who service us, people who, the carpenter at your house from Urban Clap, the person who brings you your dinner from Swiggy, the person who brings you your iPhone in the mail from delivery. They were not always covered in the past. And we are seeing a lot more companies now going in saying, hey, I've got 40,000 delivery riders. Can you give me a policy which is both affordable as well as useful for these 40,000 guys across the country working very hard and actually being the most exposed in the face of a pandemic? So these are the four broad changes that we've seen.
Thanks so much. Thanks a lot, Raghuvesh, for pitching in. I have a set of questions for you as well. My next question is for Bhavya. Bhavya, this question is about health insurance, employee health insurance, but from a different angle. I would like to ask you, employee experience is the buzzword for employers. Before COVID or after COVID, people always wanted some good employee experience in their organization. So according to you, why are health benefits significant for an overall better employee experience?
I think, what Ipshita and Raghuvesh said already talks to that point exactly, but let me elaborate a little, right? What is employee experience? It's about when a certain person is working with you, how do they feel, right? What is the culture that they actually experience? Forget about what you're putting on the walls or what you're talking about in town halls or in all hands calls. It's about what the person is living actually day in, day out when they're working for you as an employer, right? That really is employee experience truly. Now, nobody actually plans to fall sick. Nobody wants to fall sick. Nobody actually wants to use health insurance, frankly. But as it so happens, all of us at one point in time or the other do undergo a situation like that, which is not great. Now, at a time when your employee is the most vulnerable, right, and irrespective of grade, I think this is one thing where level in the organization, your seniority, etc., doesn't really matter. I think anybody who's working for you, working for any organization, is the most vulnerable at a time where either he or she or one of their family members is fallen ill and they need support. How is it that you support them at that time is really critical. And I think that is what shapes employee experience in these kind of scenarios. So is the person able to get what they are looking for, whether it's a hospital bed, whether it is some kind of a treatment, access to a great doctor, an opinion from another doctor, or access to medicines which may not normally be available, right? Any of those things, or cashless transaction if that is what is required, or a quick registration if that is what is required. I think that is what really it gets imprinted in the minds of that employee. Because like I said, that is the time when they're most vulnerable and they probably need your support the most. It's not just an airy-fairy conversation. It is not about lighter things. It is actually what matters to a person the most. When he or she or one of their loved ones is really going through a time which is not great, how have you supported them? And how fast could you respond to them? What is your level of escalation? What is the technology help that you could provide them, irrespective of where he or she was in the country? Since you are a large employer or a small employer for that matter, how were you able to put your arms around that person and say, okay, I will help you do X, Y, Z, whatever it is that is required, you be there for your loved one. So I think, that is what really matters. And I think these are some of those experiences which actually stay for people for their life. And if you actually are able to support them and guide them through a process or a situation like this in their lives, they are far more committed to you. Their discretionary effort towards your organization increases many fold. So I think it's really critical and very, very important to be able to support employees at this point in time. And I think, like I said, it is irrespective of grade or role or, what the employee earns, as long as you're able to support them with what they need. It's very important.
Thank you so much, Bhavya. I totally agree with you when you mentioned that these experiences, when you take care of your employees during tough times, stay with them throughout the life. And within the organization and outside the organization, they are going to speak, they're going to talk about it, what their organization did, either it's good or bad during these tough times. So we all need to take a note on how to do, what to do for our employees and for our employees during these tough times. Coming back to you, Raghuveer, I wanted to ask this question, but since you pitched it, you mentioned about COVID, post-COVID, and I would like to ask you the role of technology. Everyone is talking about technology since last, I think, a decade now. In everything we have tech. So what role technology can play in shaping the future of group health cover insurance and what it means for the employees especially?
Got it. So let me start off by saying that group health insurance is a complex subject matter. There are multiple permutations and combinations to choose from. For a large company or even for a small company with a distributed workforce, rolling it out, communicating it to your employees is not an easy task. Making a claim at over 13,000, 15,000 hospitals span India is not always easy. We'd like it to be a lot easier. So technology plays a fairly large role across, I think, 4 stages of the value chain of a group health insurance policy. So to start with, it is, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of small businesses and startups are coming to us for a group health insurance policy today. So if we had about 3,000 to 4,000 inquiries a month pre-COVID, today we have between 12,000 to 15,000 inquiries a month for group health insurance. And these are usually small companies, startups, new companies sometimes. Now for them, I think it starts from the perspective of what should I buy, right? So, and how should I go about buying it? So here is where I think we've followed the Policy Bazaar approach of comparison of low-cost options in a hassle-free manner and providing transparency. So if I am, the founder of a small company or the HR head of a medium-sized company, I can come online, I can put in some details about, my age group of my employees, the city that I belong to, etc. And then see prices of, let's say, 10 to 12 insurance companies. If I'm a younger company, I may want, or a younger age workforce, I may want to, see what the cost of increasing my maternity benefit to, let's say, 75,000 rupees, including C-section would be. If I am a slightly, middle-aged, older-aged company, I may want to ensure that pre-existing diseases are covered in a more aggressive manner. I may want to change my pre and post hospitalization from 30 days to 90 days. Now, I think some of us and some of our viewers may understand a part of this, and a part of this may be confusing for them. So the whole idea is, I think technology plays the role of distributing a transparent and easy manner to see, okay, if my budget is 4 lakh rupees, okay, I can afford this, but then I have to kind of compromise over here. That entire process, regardless of whether you're sitting in, Mizoram, Bilaspur, Delhi, or Mysore, becomes a lot easier. The second place where I think technology plays a huge role is in rolling out the policy. Now, I could design the most amazing policy, which includes gym memberships, which includes OPD insurance online, which includes parental covers, which covers the end of the moon. But if I don't communicate it to my employee and the employee does not know what is available, as Bhavya said, I will not get that feeling that my corporate has provided something for me. So I think the second place where technology plays a role is basically enrolling the employees onto an insurance program, ensuring that the communications are made to them effectively, right? So what we do are things like outbound IVR in regional languages. We have an enrollment platform where an employee can come and opt in for certain things and opt out for certain things. We have a platform where you can create flexible policies where a corporate can then decide that, okay, I want to spend 14,000 rupees per family, but the employee can also spend 6,000 rupees more and get these additional features which I've negotiated on their behalf. Now, to enable complex things like this, you do require technology. The third, and I think the most important place where technology plays a role is in claims management. So let's look at two different ways in which claims can be managed, right? One is the traditional way, which is I need to go to the hospital, or I've already gone to the hospital and need my money. I don't remember who my insurer is as an employee. I don't remember who my TPA is. I don't even know what a TPA is. I call my HR. I say, ma'am or sir, I require my money. So please tell me how to go about it. They're like, check your email that we sent you 5 months back, which has the details of the insurer. Download that form, print that form. So find a printer because you're working from home. Come back, fill it up. If you have any doubts, call this number. Now, does somebody pick up on that number, not pick up on that number? We don't know. Once you've done with that entire process, please find a scanner, upload those documents, send an email, pray that somebody reads that email the same day. Otherwise, it's followed through the next morning. So this becomes like the kind of a route to even file a claim, right? Now, compare that to another option where you have an app. That app also has some health and wellness benefits, but you press a button, you see a page in front of you that says, okay, upload your documents, right? Give me 4 or 5 details, no redundant information. I already know your policy number. I already know your name. I already know your age, your address, all those things I already have. Once you're done with that, press a button, that data comes to me through an API. I shoot it out to an insurer or a TPA through an API. The ticker starts then, right? If your claim requires further documents, we call you up, or we send you a WhatsApp, or we send you an email. If your employee is, let's say, a delivery rider who's not going to use the app, we've created a WhatsApp bot, right, where you can go and file your claim. So there are lots of things you can do to streamline the process. And I think as Ipshita pointed out, and as Bhavya also pointed out, that this process started a long time back in the 90s. But now is when I think the real challenges of managing, of rolling out a health insurance policy have been exposed to a large extent, right? Because of two reasons. One is that earlier we were all in one office or 2 offices or 4 offices, right? If we were a large company, we had our HR SCOC in each office. And before things actually got escalated, they worked very hard and they solved the problem for us. But when you're working in 200 cities, it becomes harder. And the second thing that kind of changed was that smaller companies started going for it. Now, they don't always have personnel in their company who understand insurance as well. So this is broadly, where Abid, technology plays a part. It's process enhancement, it's communication, it's easier claims.
During earlier times, I think the service agents, the policy agents were our bots. Now we have real bots. So coming back to Ipshita, so Ipshita, this is one of the basic questions that I'm going to ask you. Why should employers opt for the health insurance plan? That is first. And what should be the 3 crucial factors for employers to consider while picking up a group health insurance plan? Being an employer, what are your thoughts?
Okay, right. So great question. Well, I think now, as we've heard, actually going in for health insurance has pretty much become a norm for practically every organization. Earlier, it was thought of to be for only, maybe the multinationals or the very huge organizations that would actually provide this benefit to their employees, right? And as we've heard, now we've been looking at smaller employers as well, looking at that bit of safety measure to be had for their employees because of the huge possible expenses or things which may have happened over the last few months or 18 months or so. Yeah. So I think now it's becoming less of a choice really to go in for health insurance, and I think it's really important to provide that because it does give a sense of security to employees, right? And does provide that measure of well-being. Yeah. As far as your second part of the question was, what are the parameters that you need to consider while you're opting for a plan, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So again, having just looked at the whole renewal process, so this is something which is again very, very fresh. But I think the parameters to focus on when you're looking at a plan is actually exclusions. Okay, so a lot of people end up focusing on what are the inclusions of the plan, but it's also important to see what is excluded. Yeah, and then you have to look at the mix, the balance of the inclusions and the exclusions basis whatever's your employee. So given what is your age group, where people are located, what are the kind of diversity that you have within the organization, that's where you have to really see where your pros, cons work and, work on a balance for that. So I think that would be one of the first points. The second, I think, again, is something which is similar that we just heard about, considering that people now are so spread out across the country. It's not just, the metros that people are working out of, right? You have people in the smallest of areas. Now, if as an organization, if you're providing them health insurance, which they then may not be able to avail because they're in a remote part of the country, which may not be covered within the network, then that doesn't really work well for the organization. Neither does it work well, obviously, for the employee, right, or their families. So I think now it's become even more important to consider the kind of network that you're being offered as part of your plan, right, and see the reach. And I would say the third that, again, as I said, is the cost, right, from an organization perspective. And, looking at, again, as Raghuveer said, maybe there is, obviously, everyone's got a budget. Yeah. So maybe looking at, yes, if you are able to only operate within an X budget, but if there are certain add-ons that, people would like to have, then, how are you best able to negotiate even adding that on? So while you may not have it really as a part of your plan per se from an organization, from an organization's perspective, but you're still negotiating and empowering your people to be able to opt for additional benefits. So I think these three in my view would be some of the key parameters and factors to be considered while considering this. Yeah.
So much. Thank you so much, Ikshita. Coming back to you, Bhavya, I think we all know the key benefits of group health insurance, and even Ikshita also highlighted. But I would like you to shed some light from a different angle and highlight a different perspective. What do you think its impact on good health insurance impact on acquiring and retaining talent, especially when the trend of the great resignation is at its peak? Not in India, but still overall we're talking about.
Yeah, and I think we've been talking about that a bit, right? I think, it has a big role in today's day and age. I think employees themselves are far more aware in terms of what is it that they're looking for. And health insurance in today's time, specifically after having gone through two very tough phases in the case of India of COVID, I think employees are extremely aware of what is it that they are looking for and what is the kind of a benefit that the organization is giving from a health perspective. And I would say, employees are looking at the situation far more holistically, in the sense that health insurance is definitely a part of it, a very important part of it. But along with that, what are the other things that the organizations do from a well-being standpoint. And health, mind you, has become not just a physical health question, it's about mental health, it is about wellness. So it's a far broader topic. And I think employees are looking at all of that when they're considering an organization. And even if you look at from an organization perspective, I think for many organizations, health, and like I said, holistic health is one of the very important factors as a part of their own employer value proposition. So for both sides, I think it's become very important. To say how is it that we are taking care of our employees. And I think, to your earlier question on what Ikshita was saying, all of our points are extremely important in terms as employers we are choosing, right? In terms of who's our insurance partner. And many times, as I'm looking at various levels of recruitment, people are asking these questions. So what is the sum insured? What happens if it gets exhausted? Is there an additional floater cover? What is the kind of benefit that's there for my parents? Can I buy additional? So all of those questions, which probably earlier were assumed in the case of multinational organizations, said, yeah, I will be covered. I think people are far more careful about. And if you ask me, very small insights I can give you on this, which is that even when people switch employers, right? Earlier, we were very comfortable to have a break, right? In terms of saying that if you had a break of, say, a week or 2 weeks where you had gone traveling between two jobs, or you were just taking a break to spend time with your family, I think a question that comes to people's mind is, okay, how will I be covered, or my family be covered in that way? So it's a small thing, but things that have become very important for people. That when does my insurance actually kick in? And if I am away from work, then how does that work? So some of these things are very important. And like Ikshita was mentioning, right, in terms of us as employers choosing which insurer to go with, along with everything else that she mentioned in terms of financially, what does it work like? What is the sum insurance? Can there be a floater? Then similarly, what is the network that the insurer is providing? And how is the claim processing? What's the kind of feedback that exists in the market? Both, all of that. And along with that, I think employers have also started looking at what's the financial health of my insurer? What is the kind of relationship that I will be able to have with my broker? What's the part of, the insurer's business that is managed by the broker? So I think both at an employer end as well as at an employee end, the subject is of great interest, and both parties have started getting far more into the details of how can I better the benefit from an employee standpoint. And equally, the employees are asking many more questions on saying, so what are you doing on this front? And like I said, health as a topic has become a much more holistic topic and not just restricted to physical health or hospitalization cover. The discussion is far wider, and it's extremely relevant in this point.
Yes, Bhavya, it's not only related to physical health. Now it has crossed a lot of barriers as well. So I'd like to come back to Raghuveer and ask him, Raghuveer, being very fundamental, what are the fundamental steps to install and design a wellness program for employees?
Sure. So let me come to the design element first, right? You, as Bhavya just mentioned, you need to look at the coverages, the sublimits. What are the flexible benefits that we're offering? What are the floater? Is it a floater policy or not? Is it a graded policy or not? What are the cashless networks? Who all am I going to cover? Who's going to pay for it? Are my employees going to pay for it? Am I going to pay for it? Is there some kind of a quasi structure in mind? Are there any supplemental health and wellness benefits that I want to provide? Preemptive health, right? Preventive health benefits that I want to provide my employees with. A gym membership, therapist on call, OPD insurance, home treatment, health checkups, right? And then finally, the most important element, which is what can I afford, right? As a corporate, I obviously operate with a budget. So how much is what I want going to cost me? So I think the first thing towards designing a policy, and this is, I think, more meant for smaller companies than companies like Yatra and Lenovo, is that to realize that you're not alone, right? There are companies that have done this before, have had the same problem before, and have launched a policy to their employees. Get your broker to give you an industry benchmark, right? Now, typically, industry benchmarking is done for large corporates. What we try to do at Policy Bazaar is to ensure that since all our data is anyway kind of stored systematically, it's easy for us to create meta cuts. And even for a 100-member or a 200-member company or a 50-member company, say, you're a startup based out of Bangalore in the fintech sector with this kind of a gender distribution, with this kind of an age distribution. Hey, you know, there are these 7 other companies that have these broad features, yes, no, that are offered to their employees. Why don't we talk more about what the cost for something like this could be? So I think from the perspective of designing your policy, the first step is to understand, and especially if you're doing it for the first time, is to actually understand what else is out there and to realize you're not alone. So don't stress too much about it. The second element is you're essentially trying to create a policy for your employees. So why not understand what they want, right? You have an idea of what they may want as the HR team, as the founder of a small or a medium-sized company. Launch a smart survey, right? Launch it to your employees. Ask them to give you some feedback. I can assure you that in today's day and age, employees, as Bhavya and Ipshita both mentioned, employees are super concerned about their insurance policy and their benefits. So ask them and try and understand what they feel they require. And the third thing that I would do, or what we see our corporates do in the or what we provide for our corporates, is a detailed claims analysis. Right now, I as an employee may feel I want a gym membership, but after analyzing your claims for last year, I may find that your maternity sublimit was 40,000 rupees, but 30% of your claims or the amount of your claims was for maternity, and your average cost for the employee was 82,000 rupees. So, while you're also paying for pre-existing diseases, but since your employee base is so young, you don't require pre-existing disease coverage as aggressively as you bought it. So the third point is basically to do a detailed claims analysis, and you can get your broker to do this to be able to actually understand what went wrong last year, what can I improve this year, right? From the perspective of installing a policy, right? Especially in the era of work from home, where a lot of companies have distributed workforces. It is important to have technology on your side. It is important to have an enrollment platform. It is important to be able to communicate effectively to the employees via various mediums, right? It can't just be office mein, town hall mein, we will talk about what is included in your policy anymore, because there is no real town hall. Not all companies today have a town hall taking place, right? So can I send a WhatsApp to them? Can I do an IVR outbound call to them? Can I drop them a WhatsApp? Can I drop them an email? Can I drop them an SMS? Can I drop them a reminder after 5 days? So from an installation perspective, once you've designed it, use data, use technology, work with the vendor who can help you with these kind of elements to be able to distribute it to your workforce.
Thank you so much, Raghuveer. I have one additional question to that, and I'll ask Ipshita. Since Raghuveer mentioned about the fundamental steps to install and design a wellness program for employees, I would like to ask you, how can these programs can be effective in the long run?
Right. So, yeah, that's very interesting because, it's important to remain consistent and, not just start off with a bang and then have things fizzle out. So I think if one makes it an agenda, which is like an organizational goal or an organizational agenda to say that, yes, as part of the plan for the organization, we do look at employee wellness as a very important aspect. So that becomes then a focus, right? You include it in your mission, vision, values kind of statement of the organization. And then, of course, it's also important, I feel, to look at a good mix of things that you can keep doing over, the next few months, years, however you want to plan it. Because, you see, I mean, again, since people are so much more well aware now, right? I don't think like a virtual yoga session done, once a week is really something which is going to work to keep employees engaged over a very, sustained period of time. So I think now you need to really look at, again, your employee mix to see what keeps them interested. What is the, age group, diversity, what are the interest areas? Like I remember while I was with Indigo, so way back 10 years ago, we launched what we called a futsal tournament, right? I'm not sure how many people have even heard of futsal, right? So it's like indoor football, and so again, you have, so the regular corporate cricket programs that most organizations have now. But this was something that really, focused on fitness, helped on team building, did a whole kind of very holistic approach towards wellness in general. So it was one of the aspects of our plans, right? And it was something very new, very fresh, not something that very many people even knew about. Yeah. Again, when I was with Airtel very early on, I mean, this is like 15 years, 14 years ago, was when we launched a program where people could avail counseling services. Yeah, so on a particular day of the week, you would have a counselor who would be coming into the office. Everything was very confidential. You could directly fix up an appointment, seek an appointment with the person, go meet up with the person, and be there. Again, Indigo, we had an online counseling service. So with all of those things, and of course, like we've talked about, getting maybe subscriptions of gym memberships and all of that. So I think trying to figure out what works for your employees, because you have to have an employee buy-in, right? You can keep on launching like new initiatives every day and not have people participating. It really doesn't work. So you have to give them something that keeps them interested, right? And again, budget, location, where you're at makes a huge difference to all of that. I think also the kind of commitment that you have towards employees and the commitment that you're getting back from them in terms of, again, buy-in, right? And I think that comes when you do show a focus on getting into constant innovation, constant effort to really keep a sustained and consistent model of wellness ongoing in the organization.
Thank you so much for highlighting this and elaborating a lot. That's really effective. So coming back to you, Bhavya, another aspect. Would you like to shed some light on the importance of group health insurance for employers, such as tax benefits, cost management, etc.? How does it help employers in what manner, apart from the employer branding part, and attrition is also one of them? So what are your thoughts?
I think you've already called it out, and I think that's right. I mean, there are benefits that are associated with it, but I mean, frankly, if you ask me, even from an employer perspective, those are not the bigger benefits that are there for something like this, right? It's not. I don't think that the intent of an organization, and especially a good organization, is to save money in this regard. Honestly, if you ask me, I mean, even when we talk internally and when we're talking to insurers and when we're talking to organizations, I don't think that this is the kind of money that we would like to count in productivity. So it's money that we would want to spend and spend well and care for our employees. So while all those benefits are there, but I think the actual benefits from an employee perspective of being able to get a much better insurance cover for employees as an employer rather than what they would have been able to get at an individual level, I think is the biggest benefit, even as an employer. That obviously as an employer, you're able to negotiate much better, you're able to have much more coverage, you're able to have much more, many more facilities, much more tech enablement in the entire process. And I think those are benefits which even from an employer perspective are far bigger and outweigh, any cost related benefits that one may have in this regard. I think just the care element is far bigger. And, to the previous question, I think in some of these things, frankly speaking, I feel, and I think that's the same sentiment that Lenovo carries, is that, you have to be genuine in things like these, because like, we were talking about earlier as well, which is that these are not situations that we want to find ourselves in. And these are situations that leave us really vulnerable. And hence, I personally feel that employees are able to see through, what are you doing at times like these? And I personally think that while there is a policy, right, and there is a framework within which you operate, and you would want to be fair to a large set of employees, equally, I think employees watch out for cases where some employee would have needed your support above and beyond the policy. At a very human level, to see as an employer, how did you go beyond and support that particular employee? And trust me, even if it's not you, right, even if it is for someone else, everybody else around also looks out to see, okay, what did my employer do when a certain person really needed support above and beyond what the policy said. So one part of it is what is written on the paper and where there is a policy, but it's also about what you go and do where a person really needs it. So there is a sum insured, and when there is a person who's actually in trouble, what do you go out and do as an employer to support that person in very serious illness cases, which I mean these days there are a lot more stories about, is what really matters in my mind. And really, I think what Raghuveer was saying earlier is very important, that you have to, in all of these things, you have to start employee out. And there is so much data, trust me, at an organization level that sometimes we don't leverage. You have your employee data and all kinds of data, then you have your claims data, you have so much information that's lying out there to design some of these things, because this is the time of mass customization, right? It's not about saying that, okay, I have one size fits all. It is really important to use the funds that you have wisely, and to use them to support your employees in the best possible way that is required for them. Not just about buying, what you think in your mind is the best possible product available in the market, but really looking at what is required. And this is not really money that, at least as an HR leader, I would want to save, in any given year. I'm happy to spend this money and be of support to my employees at any point in time.
Yes, thank you so much. Helping employees is your end in mind. I just wanted to highlight a different perspective. Maybe people love to see or want to see these kind of benefits for employees, but I'm glad that you cleared all the doubts. And Raghuveer, I'm coming back to you for a very brief response. And my question is, since we are running out of time now,
Sure.
post-COVID, employers are in search of an all-inclusive group health cover to stay ahead of any alternatives,
Right.
any uncertainties.
Right.
What are the possible benefits in addition to the ones offered by the regular group cover? Your quick thought on it.
So I think we've answered it in many parts during this conversation, that just think of what you had to go through, or what your family members had to go through, your friends had to go through during COVID, right? You needed to get really expensive lab tests done. You needed to go and get a lot of expense spent at home because there was no hospital room, right? You needed to go get admitted in a hospital room which was converted into a hospital, right? Can you cover all of this in your policy? Yes. Home care treatment is available, COVID is available, institutional treatment is available. Second thing that we saw was the elderly in our population were impacted more than the younger people in our population, at least if you aggregate it across wave 1 and wave 2, right? Can parents be covered? Group insurance is beneficial. Why? Because you have pooling of risk. So if I go to buy a health insurance policy for my mother, it will cost me X. If I get it as a part of my group health insurance policy with 10% of the employees of Policy Bazaar opting in for it, it'll cost me 1/4 of X, right? So as an employee, can my company make it more affordable for me to cover my parents, and also to ensure that my mother or my father's pre-existing diseases, if she's a diabetic, can that be covered as well, right? So that is another element which is started. Then there are other things like, for example, you have consumables, which is essentially when you go to a hospital, even if it's cashless, you need to pay something at the exit. Can some of that or all of that, actually, like what Flipkart has done, for example, be covered? Now, all of these features are available in group health insurance policies, and they were available 10 years back also. So I'll come to the fundamental point, which is, it's not really about what is available. Our regulator has been fairly innovative, nimble, and mature about this for decades, right? Group health insurance plans include all these features. Question is, can you make it easy for me to deploy it to my employees, for them to use it and actually see the impact of it? So this is, I think, some of the demand expansion that I have seen over the cases that I've been viewing post-COVID.
Thank you so much. And before I open the floor for questions, we just have 10 minutes. I'll quickly ask the last question, and this is for everyone. I request all the panelists to be very brief and in one sentence or two sentences, that will work. So do you agree with the statement that healthier employees make a more productive workforce? How health insurance can enhance the employees' productivity? I'll start with Ikshita. You're quiet, so I thought I'll ask you first.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's no question in anyone's mind, right, that a healthy workforce will definitely lead to a more productive, organization. And I think, again, like now that we've, experienced whatever we have, I think the focus for all organizations as well as for individuals per se is how not to end up using hospitals or how not to have to end up using health insurance. So I think now the focus is on well-being, on health, right? And I think when organizations and employees work together to achieve that, then it's a win-win situation for everyone, right? And that's like the true essence of employee engagement per se, right? So I think that's the need of the hour, and I think that's how we are looking to proceed in the future. And I think it's a good thing all around.
Okay, Bhavya.
So slight twist to what you said. I think healthier employees and their healthier families actually make happier people, and happier people anyway are always, wanting to work and contribute much more positively. So, I'll move away from productivity, but I think happier people just contribute much more to any organization and wherever they are. And hence, it's very important for employers to focus on that.
Very beautifully put. And Raghuveer.
Yeah, I'll try and answer it from the perspective of an employee and not the HR team, which is
That's all.
Yeah, 100%. And I find it easier to get people in my team if my company has a good health plan for them and their families. And I find it more convenient when I need to use my policy, which I have had to in the last 9 months. So yes, I totally agree that it does land up with a more happy and productive workforce.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone. But now I'm opening the floor for questions, and I have received a lot of questions. I will filter a few and I'll ask. So the first question is, any one of you can take it up. Is group insurance support to the employee who are working in private educational installation? Who wants to take it up? That's the question.
I'm not sure I understand it very well.
Yeah, I thought maybe
So the answer is yes.
The answer is yes.
The answer is yes. Any organization with more than 7 people, and in fact nowadays even less than 7 people, can be insured in the framework of a group. So
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
At the end of this, if you can give me the details of the people who've asked these questions, I'll make sure a more.
Okay, sure. We'll do that. So Sunita is asking, please suggest who all are usually covered in group health insurance, including any of the dependent parent is usually a thing, considering COVID. How much increase we can expect if we include them 3 times, 4 times? I think this is very technical, and Raghuveer, this question is for you.
So Sunita, I think the good part about group health insurance is that it can be structured. Typically, I am seeing that more and more people are trying to get their parents covered. More and more people are trying to get flexible options wherein both the employee can pay for it as well as the organization can pay for it in the event that a top up is required. So you may have the budget to spend 1 lakh rupees on your parental cover, but you may want to give your employees the option of getting a top up to up to 4 lakh rupees, which Raghuveer may say no to, but Bhavya may say yes to. So that's typically how to look at it. There's no real multiple as sort. If you're trying to reduce your cost, you can also explore copay. So copay is where, for example, if you get a 1 lakh rupee cover for your parents, you may end up spending, let's say, hypothetically speaking, about 10,000 rupees for a year for that. But if there is a copay of 20% or 10% or 15%, depending on how much you want to reduce the cost goes down for the premium. And copay basically means that when I go to the hospital, if I get a bill of 1 lakh, the first 20,000 comes out of my pocket and the remaining 80,000 is paid by the insurer. So it's a variable answer, but broadly, this is how I would answer it.
Bhavya, the next question is for you. Anil Singh. Anil is asking a very practical and direct question. Anil is asking if an employee during work from home met with an accident in another state in India, what about the claim? Will company give the claim to the employee?
You mean, so this is on accidental insurance, right?
Yes.
Obviously, it's, so I think the definition of workplace itself is a question when people are working from home, obviously, because they're not working out of the workplace. But like I said earlier, right, I think organizations take different decisions. But from my perspective, I can tell you that like I said, there is a policy which is a written policy, but it's also about supporting the employee at the time of need. So in our case, we have supported people in such situations in the past.
Okay, so answer is yes.
Answer.
Hopefully you don't need this insurance, Anil.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh. So the next question is for Ipshita. Ipshita, the question is from Ankit, while you may want to offer your employee great health benefits, your balance sheet might not allow that. Can we have a standard group medical cover?
I think in any case, when you are defining a policy, you look at your budget, you look at how much you're looking at providing for employees as a coverage, which is a substantial and a meaningful coverage, right? Which will still provide a reasonable kind of insurance value. Yeah. So I think it has to be a combination of both things. And again, if in case someone wants to opt for a more enhanced cover, right, and if that is not kind of something which is being currently provided or is currently an option, then you can always, like Raghuveer said, nowadays you have a whole range of kind of mix that you can do to really enhance the coverage. Yeah. So I hope, Ankit, that answers the question, that at the end of the day, the idea is to get the most benefit that one can in terms of ever having to avail health insurance in case of an emergency. So I think that can be something that is a win-win situation and solution for the organization and the employee. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I'd just like to add a little bit one-line advice to that. Sometimes, I mean, just to break it up monetarily, and obviously Raghuveer is an expert on this, but maybe, the basic cover that you have for everyone may be less. As an example, if you have less funds, but you can always look at a corporate floater, which then helps people who need much more. So that is also an option to structure the amount of funds that you have, so that you're not spending uniformly on everyone. So you have a basic cover, you have a floater, and then obviously the copay option, which Ipshita spoke about, is also there for you to explore, where employees can enhance their limits if they wish to.
Okay, another very, I think, important critical question, Raghuveer. I think you may have answered these earlier. So, are OPD costs covered in any health insurance in case of non-hospitalization? I would also like to ask that.
It depends on what your company has structured in your group health insurance policy. So there are broadly three frameworks, right? One is that it is not in your basic group health insurance policy. It is usually not. So 8 out of 10 companies that I have seen do not cover OPD costs in the policy, because even with pooled risk, given the probability that somebody will get a test done or will get a lab test requirement done during the year, the cost is significant. But there are two other ways in which corporates deal with it. One is that they include OPD in the policy, either for the employee or for their families. And the second is that there is also online consultations and online ways of handling, let's say, 3/4 of the requirements that an employee may have, which can be handled at a very, very low cost, as low as, let's say, 100 rupees per employee per year, compared to, let's say, 3,000, 4,000 rupees per employee per year for a full-fledged OPD policy. So the answer, Abid, is it depends on how nice your HR is and the budgets.
I got it. So there are a lot of questions unanswered. We will get back to you guys, and I'll share the question with you, Raghuveer, as well. Please. I think it's time. We have only 30 seconds left, so I won't take any more questions because it will cross the time limit. And thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much, first of all the attendees for taking out time and attending and asking questions, attending this session. And thank you so much, Bhavya. Thank you so much, Ipshita. And thank you so much, Raghuveer, for taking out time and sharing your thoughts and responses. And I really learned a lot throughout this session about the insurance, about how companies are doing it, how companies it has come in the priority list. I think there are two things that is in the priority list. One is skilling, and second is employee experience. And all these things, health insurance, retention, everything comes under these things. So thank you so much. Thanks once again. It was nice hosting all of you. And hopefully we'll meet soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.